Okay, so yeah, here to talk about your first talk, or one of your first few, to kind of get some pro tips, hopefully. And by the end of it, hopefully we'll make something that your talk inspires other people. So, hi, I'm Steph. I run Block Data here in the UK. We're a data science consultancy. I'm a Microsoft MVP, which means Microsoft basically went, hey Steph, you're really good at going around the world and talking and eating great steak and meeting great people. So that's a nifty reward that I got for doing this kind of thing. My contact details are at the end so that you can follow up with me afterwards. But worth knowing that I've been a speaker now for about 8 or 9 years, and my first talk I guaranteed went well by bringing a pack of fun-sized chocolates and guaranteeing that and saying if you ask questions you get a chocolate, and that went really well. Food is definitely a way to go, but you have to be brave enough or stupid enough to throw things at your audience. So not a strategy I recommend for everyone. Okay, so we're gonna learn how to build an awesome talk today. We're gonna start with what things make a good presentation, and then we'll go into some of the kind of hard-tack details, like making sure you have an outfit with pockets. Some of the things that you might not necessarily know until you get up on stage, and it can end up with something missing. So let's start with you. So good presenters have a few attributes. They tell stories. So ultimately, a presentation has far less information content than a blog or an article or a book. The reason why people come to a talk is to hear the presenter and how this thing that they're talking about has impacted them. So it's a really good practice to do an anecdote, like when I told you about my first speaking experience. Starting out with why you care really helps people connect to you and your topic. You should also be pretty good at setting expectations. So this usually starts with, first of all, the title. It's really good practice to have the title slide up long before the talk starts, so people know they're in the right room. But then going through with the agenda and things, you tell people what you're going to tell them. You let them know when you're going to be taking questions. You're basically considerate of their time and don't want to stress them out. You should have passion about your topic. Nobody wants to see a boring topic that the presenter doesn't care about. So show your enjoyment. Or, because I do talks about what not to do as well, show your passion about not doing them. And then finally, be yourself. So I tend to make a lot of jokes, which helps deflect from my content, but you don't actually have to present just like me. The key thing is finding out what your voice is and what your slide should be like that reflects you. So I've done talks that have just made up of pictures of my dogs, and that reflects me. So be yourself and present the way you feel most comfortable. Okay, so that's you. Be yourself, be passionate, tell stories, be clear. Good talks, as I was just saying, good talks, people show up for a talk not because they're looking for a vast amount of information. They're looking for some information put the right way and to get that unique perspective of the person giving the talk. So yes, you're there to educate, but more importantly, you're there to entertain. So you should not put more content in at the risk of being more boring. And ultimately, you're there to inspire. And that should be the thing that happens. Your talk is a call to action. It's there to make an impact in their lives. You want them to go away and learn about this topic in more detail, or go fix that problem that's been challenging them. Your talk is there to make a positive difference. So try and convey your passion and lead and end with what you hope people will go away from your talk wanting to do. And these are the things that you want to think about when you're structuring your talk. How do I educate? More importantly, how do I entertain? And most crucial of all, what do I want people to take from this talk? And how do I achieve that goal? So some of the ways that you can structure your talk to kind of achieve your aim. A really good one is a story. So a classical beginning, middle, and end of like, my R code stopped running in less than an hour, and now I was unable to get my reports done, and my boss was sad and he was shouting at me. So then I had to try and fix these performance issues. To try and address these performance issues, I investigated RCPP. And RCPP, which is C++ embedded in R, allows me to write faster versions of some of my code. So let's see how I could write that code faster. You show them, and then you say, and as a result, now my code ran in 10 minutes, not 60 minutes, and I was able to keep my boss happy, and I got 50 minutes extra to go for coffee instead. So stories are incredibly compelling. We are wired to enjoy stories, so it's a really good one. Less good, in my opinion, but more common are the two styles, clickbait and tutorial. So a clickbait section is like 7 ways you can improve your reports. So you would have a beginning, like an introduction and a conclusion, and then the intervening time would be sort of split up by these different sections. And I do this as well. I have a clickbait structured talk called Solving Power BI Pain Points with R. That talk has discrete sections where I show different things, but every single one of them is actually a mini story. So I showcase the technology, but I tell them why this thing is helpful and ways that they could also extend it. And any other format is a tutorial. So I'm here today to help you learn the fundamentals of Neo4j. So what do you need to learn Neo4j? Well, first of all, you need to get the program. You get the program from here. Once you got that done, here is my go-to tool for getting started. So we can load it up and we'll do a demo and we'll see how we can start investigating the graph database. I'll show you some caveats along the way, and finally a way that you can hopefully wow your boss. Awesome. Okay, so those are 3 common ways of structuring your talks. And I would say that a story is often the most compelling and worth trying to do. If you do clickbait or tutorial styles, try and bring smaller stories and anecdotes in as you progress through your talk. Okay. Good slides. Good slides have a number of attributes. So they should be visual aids. They can be, I usually have a few bullet points that are usually fairly short because people are used to reading, but you can have just like whole picture slides. Often I will spend a huge amount of time on maybe 1 or 2 of the slides in the slide deck because their job is to have an amazing diagram which explains how everything fits together. Those high-level overview or detailed architecture bits, the flowcharts, those are the things that really help you convey your idea. So they're definitely worth kind of thinking about. Slides should be minimal. It should never be a wall of text. If people can't read your slide in a few seconds, then they may as well be reading a blog. There is no point them coming to a talk, especially if you end up kind of reading out all the content of the slides as well. Every slide must support your aim, the thing that you're telling people about and trying to inspire them to do. If a slide is unnecessary, doesn't count for cat and dog gifs. You can have as many cat and dog gift slides as you want, but if it's something actually unnecessary, like a screenshot of some documentation, which people know where it is anyway, cut it. Fewer slides are better. And slides should be legible. So don't be tempted to go for lots of fancy gradients and things. Pick simple designs or pictures which you can put text over that's really legible. And I do something called a squint test, which is basically if you put your laptop on the one side of the room, go to the other side of the room, kind of squint, can you still make out what the slide says? Because you're going to be presenting in rooms where the projector might not be very good, where the light might make it very difficult, and of course there are people who have problems with their vision, and the easier you can make it for them, the better. So these are kind of the 4 keys to success. They have something meaningful and visual. They're minimal. They support what you're trying to achieve, and they're legible from a distance. Okay. So that's kind of like my high-level thinking about what you should do for your presentations. So think about you, then think about your aim, think about the structure you're going to use, and then think about the actual slides to support it. The next big thing that you'll probably find out is you're nervous, you're worried, you're really panicked that you might like fall off the stage. And this is Amy. If Amy was on the call today, you would be able to see Amy in person, but for now we just get sad, nervous Amy. So I don't think you can ever cure nerves fully, but I do believe proper planning prevents piss poor performance. Usually we're worried about all the things that can go wrong, and I feel like the way that we can we can tackle those worries is to actually have plans in place for if things go wrong. If we know that we have minimized the risk of things going wrong and what we'll do in the event of something like our installation breaking, we can easily recover from that. So in terms of planning, here are the things that I think you should do to kind of reduce your issues. So the first one is nail the intro. By that I mean the first few minutes of your presentation are the ones where you feel your nerves the most. It's the bit where you get up on stage and you look at the people and you panic. So having really rehearse your first few minutes. Hi, I'm Steph and thank you for coming along to my talk today on blah blah blah. We're going to talk about this. Those first bits are really useful to just give you the time to get into your talk. So practice those a lot. Rehearse. Timing, like making sure that you have the right amount of time for your talk, that you can actually understand what you put down on the slide and you're able to communicate it. Present to people who have no clue about the topic. Present to your dogs, to your cats, your kids. Present to anybody, because what you're looking for usually there is not where you're wrong, because you're technically gifted, right? For me, that's a given. What you're looking for is areas where you haven't quite worked out the links between the things you're going to say. What do you need to do to go from talking about this R function to talking about R markdown? What's the link? Do you understand it? If you're running a bit over, do you know how to kind of shortcut a bit through your talks? So practice really helps. If you want to demonstrate anything, take a recording. So PowerPoint has screen recording capabilities. You can also do screen recording with a variety of other tools. Keynote probably allows you to do it as well, but make sure you record them. And actually that's a really useful tip for you just generally, because if you record the demos, you can put them on YouTube and you can actually start building up a bit of an extra use of your content. So I usually put up my demos of talks, and my Power BI talk that I referenced in my about the clickbait structure, that one video has had more than 2,500 views, and it's literally just me clicking. But I put in some basic info and I put a link to the talk. So I'm helping people who have never seen that presentation because I recorded my demo and I put it online. The other way that you can do it, especially as a beginner and you're nervous, is don't do a demo at all. Particularly if the talk is short, you don't necessarily need to do it. And of course, another way around it is if we're doing R, then if you use something like Reveal.js or Zeringan, then you can make a presentation and it only appears on the screen if the code runs. And it gives you the chance to check the code and make sure it's actually doing the right thing. But then you don't have to delve into RStudio. You can just show the code and the results. People are used to that in the R world. We know that is a working demo. So don't stress about doing a live demonstration, and make sure that you have some sort of backup in place for if you're feeling too nervous, or if the internet's down, or various other things that could go wrong. And then back up your stuff. I always have an online copy of my video, of my slides that are publicly available. This is because I have had my motherboard break, my computer turn off, and no longer, when it turned back on, present to the audience. Things go wrong with computers all the time. So it's a really good idea to make sure that your slides are available for in the event of computer difficulties. Get a stooge. So one of the things that we often worry about when we're doing our first few talks, I still worry about this now, is what if somebody, the first question is a really hard question, or if I'm looking in a sea of faces and I don't see anybody familiar. Get a stooge. See if somebody will come sit in your talk and prepare them with potentially a question or two that they can ask if they don't already know the topic. They'll sit there, they'll enjoy your talk, they'll be a nice reassuring face, and then they can also ask questions at the end. So prepare a stooge for if you're really nervous. And understand your tools, right? Make sure that you spent time knowing what PowerPoint can do. Work out whether you want to be able to do a clicker. How do you increase the font sizes in command prompt windows or RStudio? Think about what you're going to do on stage and make sure that you can do those smoothly, because it feels really stressful when you're going, oh, how do I project and go to extend? Those kind of things, they stress you out, and when you're stressed, you convey that to the audience. So have some practice transitioning from slides to R kind of thing. Okay, so that is planning. The more planning you can do and the more preparation, the more comfortable you will feel about your talk, because you will have taken into consideration more things that can go wrong and compensated for them. Okay, so what do you need on the day, right? What should your presenter toolkit look like? Because you got to take some stuff, and because you don't want to like show up with the wrong things. So your presenter kit should start off with some clothes with pockets or a belt. So depending on the room that you're presenting in, you might be asked to wear what's called a lavalier mic, which it clips onto your top. So you need somewhere for it to clip onto, and it could have a mic pack. So if it has a little pack that it's got a clip on it, it either needs to go in a pocket or hooked on a belt or your waistband. So ideally you don't want it hooked on your waistband, because then things can go wrong with your waistband. So try and pick pockets, clothes with big pockets that can put mic packs in, or make sure you wear a belt or something. Dongles. I've done this before. I've just received a new computer and it was the same as my last one. Like, I got an XPS 13 and now all of a sudden they'd changed the connector, and it was no longer a mini HDMI, it was now a USB-C. And I rocked up to do a talk and I couldn't connect to the projector anymore. So make sure you have the right dongles for your machine, and make sure to check any AV info that the organizers give you. You need to think about whether you want a remote or a clicker. So clickers are fairly cheap. You can get one for like £30. But if you're using something like PowerPoint, PowerPoint actually has something called Office Remote, and you can install that on your phone, and you can use your phone to control PowerPoint. And a clicker or your phone is useful because then you're not hiding behind your computer. If you're hiding behind your computer, you can have a tendency to hunch over. If you're like me, you'll be really short and they put a lectern at kind of like man height, and then you can barely be seen over the lectern. And people are there to see you speak, not your computer speak. So being able to walk away from your machine really helps. Take a backup of your talk. Know what that online URL is and or have the USB. Make sure to put your computer into focus mode. If you get pop-ups about Twitter followers or Slack messages or emails, people tend to be mean. I do this to some of my presenters who I'm friends with, and we know it's okay. If they leave their computer with pop-ups of sending tweets saying, "Hey, Rob hasn't noticed me," and things. Or you could end up with emails from your boss or a client or some sensitive info showing up. So make sure that your presenter kit has your laptop in quiet mode. Also check your phone and put it on silent. Do not put it on vibrate, because if your phone's anything like mine and it's next to your computer, if it's on a metal lectern, it's going to make a hell of a noise. So you'll probably want your phone, but keep it on silent. Make sure your computer is not going to throw up any notifications. Make sure you have the dongles to connect to your projector, and make sure that you are prepared for in the event of a microphone solution. Okay. Things like in the sort of checklist about you, things that you should have in your checklist about your slide deck. You should have a title screen. You're going to use this to make sure people know they're in the right room. And as a presenter, I've been in the wrong room before, and having put my title deck up, it's also helped me find out before my talk was due to start. So do have that title page. Put your contact details on it, like your Twitter handle and things, so that whilst people are waiting, they can be following you. Include an agenda. We should always set expectations about what's going to be covered. This really helps make sure that people know they're in the right room and that it's at the right level for them. You don't want to make anybody sit through your talk who it isn't right for. So give them the information up front to help them decide whether they're in the right room. You need a biography slide. People are here to see you present. Tell them a bit about yourself. It really helps build that personal connection and set where you're coming from. You should have a conclusion. You need to kind of bring everything back together to the agenda. What did you cover? This helps you kind of know that your talk is ending, but it also gives people a recap so that if they had questions earlier on during the talk and they were being held to the end, it will help trigger for them that they had a question so that they can ask you. You should always thank your audience and organizers and sponsors and stuff, because yeah, sure, we did a ton of work when we rock up and present, but it's nothing compared to what the organizers have done. And every single person in the room has given up an hour or half an hour of their lives to see you present. That is something to be really thankful for. So do thank everyone. And then have a follow-up slide. What should people do next? Should that be go download something from GitHub? Should it be follow you on Twitter? Grab a business card? What do you want people to do basically immediately after this talk? That is a really powerful way for you to get more people doing the thing that you are hopefully inspiring them to do. So that's your kind of presenter kit. Every presentation you do should include at least those slides. And hopefully, by making sure that you've gone through your presenter kit and your key slides and all the planning, it's a lot more comfortable to do the talk. You'll still be nervous, but at least you'll be prepared. Okay. So in terms of recap, the things you need to go through regularly. Are you prepared? Like, do you know how you're going to say things? Have you injected your own personality into the talk? And are you happy with what you're going to be saying? Does your presentation contain the reasons to inspire people to do something? Is it well structured, and does it incorporate stories that help people understand either your perspective better or the situation better? Do you have nice, clean slides that are easy for people to read? And does every slide add value? If a slide or a section doesn't add value, delete it. Be ruthless. You can spend more time on the things that are relevant. Have you done preparation? Do you know what your intro is going to sound like? Do you have backups for if your demos and your slides go wrong? Be prepared. And make sure you pack your presenter kit. You don't want to be left going up on stage and missing something important. So thank you all for listening. We're now going to go into the question and answer phase, because this is a very much a talk and workshop for you, but we're not going to record that bit. So thank you all very much, and allow me to switch over.